my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white. Yeah, it's black and white. We're just black and white. It's my black and white. It's my black and white scarf.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the Townhead podcast. It's season 5, episode 6 already. Well, it's another win for Dundalk Football Club, this time on the road at Bray on the brand new pitch. Once again, it's seen Dundalk get off to a quick fire start, and to go back through that game, I'm joined by Gally tonight. Gally, how are you?
Evening.
Past the crack. Gally, it's another win. You know, the expectations around Dundalk Football Club in this division are going to keep rising and rising as these wins come in. But after last week, how important did you think it was to get back to winning ways?
Yeah, I think in this division in particular, when you see, especially with the likes of Bray with the new pitch, you know, you're always going to wonder what the new pitch is going to be like. It's their first time on it. I'm sure they've had plenty of practice over the week on it. We're used to the Astro. But then, you know, Bray playoff team last year probably didn't look like it in the first half in particular of this game. But you're always worried that you've got to, especially with the way the game went in Treaty, you're 2-0 up.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it's a bit arrogant to use the word cruising, but I mean, nothing really happened up until the incident in 86 minutes. But you're kind of worried that maybe a week off, you know, sometimes a game on a Monday is maybe a great one after that kind of game. You know, whether it's a draw, you're always better off going straight into a Monday game. That kind of week could be a long week for everybody, and I'm sure training was a bit kind of contentious and stuff. But I mean, we really had nothing to fear, did we? I mean, like when you look at the game, and Bray were always a sticky wicket, a banana skin for the Dundalk over the years. I remember going to like Dylan Connolly, Bray, that type of team, completing Stephen Kenny's 3-up and they were never a walkover team. The odd time you would have beat them well, but then there were always that little bit of a bite in them when they played Dundalk, and I suppose Rovers and Bows. But we went down there Monday night, and I think I sat here the week before and I said one of the first halves of football, best halves of football a couple of weeks ago when we played, we were excellent. But that's probably as good as we've been in the first half in particular. And look, Bray are no great shakes from what I've seen in that first half, but we were excellent. We were at it from the word go. I mean, from the very first touch to kick off, we pressed well, we covered well. I mean, we'll go into individuals later, but again, we're talking this, the robust Dundalk, 2 sitting midfielders, 2 centre backs. We spread the ball wide. Dave Devon again. Ebby for me is just, I mentioned this one before.
But he holds the line so well, though, doesn't he? Like, every ball sticks to him. He's harassing defenders and stuff like that. Were you surprised, though, that there was no changes in the starting lineup versus last week? Or does that kind of it probably tells you where we are with injuries at the moment as well, when you think of the personnel that's missing and suspension with Gaxa still.
Yeah.
But, like, were you surprised after throwing away the 2-goal lead, that he didn't think?
I honestly thought, and it's no slight on Keith Ward, I honestly thought he wouldn't start again. I didn't know if he would start, even if we talk about the whole season, I didn't know if he'd start 2 games on the bounce, you know, because he's probably not brought into play that, you know, straight from the start role all the time. So I was surprised to see him in. And then there's probably an option maybe to give Owen Kenny a run from the bench, give a Ruby a go. But then, you know, when you look at that first half display, why would you? You know, like it's going to be so difficult for these boys to get in here. As young as they are and as, you know, as fit as they look, and you know, strength and conditions going really well. Ronan Moore's obviously did a serious job with them. You know, it's going to be really difficult for players to get into this team. As much as we think it's going to be an easy season, or some games are going to be very easy, the boys aren't just throwing lads in willy-nilly. You know, they're quite happy to sit with the team they have and go out and get another run at it, considering what happened last week. Keith Ward's probably the obvious one, you know, but again, as a Dundalk fan, as a League of Ireland fan, you want to see Keith Ward playing as much as you can, because on his day, he's top class. But yeah, definitely on the Ward one, I would have expected maybe, like, you could argue maybe, you know, Delvin in at right back, but then, like you say, with the injuries and the lack of cover, maybe that's probably just he's probably going to pick himself there at the minute because of what we haven't got, I suppose. But not massively surprised with Ward. If you're nailed in one player, Ward, I wouldn't expect to start again. But I mean, you know, it was completely the right decision. I mean, they absolutely ran him ragged, especially on the AstroTurf, a brand new AstroTurf, you know, slick. You know, don't get me wrong, AstroTurf I'm not a fan of, but I mean that's a good, you know, it's a good AstroTurf. Like when you compare it to Oriel Park, it's top class, and you know it's almost I wonder if we had it dominated on grass, you know, if it had been a grass pitch, would you have dominated so much? But I mean, it just kind of fell into Kildo's hands. I mean, the lads passed the ball well, slick. And in the first half in particular, I thought we were absolutely top class.
It's funny you bring up Wardy, because when I actually look back on the game, I felt like he had asked them to play a bit of like a quarterback sort of a role. He was accepting the ball off the back four and distributing out on their behalf and getting the moves going from the start. And probably the fact that Bray played one up front and they didn't really press at all, it suited us. Yeah. It suited us in a lot of ways, I felt, to do that. And that pressing game, from Wardy being able to kind of pick and pass, it kind of allowed Horgan and Kenny on the right this time, of course, to push right the way up. And then that's where the first goal comes from. It's pressure. Yeah. And if you give that small, Cantwell goes and blocks that ball, goes out for a throw in, gets back and actually makes a decent interception, it looks, to cut out the ball. And he assumes one of his two defenders is just going to meet this. But neither of them could decide that. And Darrell just nips in straight away. You just can't give him them sort of opportunities, can you?
Yeah, and when you're I'm going to be very generous to myself. I played at the back when I played, but I haven't played in 20 odd years of football. But when you're nervous, when the team is constantly pressing you, and you've got players of the likes of a Darrell Hogan or the likes of an Ebby coming at you, these boys are probably used to playing against Dean Ebby. When you've got those players pressuring you, even if it's for 5 minutes, but goals obviously come in early, but when you've got those on your back, it almost slows you down in your head, because you're almost giving them an extra yard unknown to yourself. And you say that the breakdown from the throw-in is 100%. They've done rightly. They've stopped the ball. They've gotten it out. But then that little bit of hesitation, maybe last year, if that hesitation happens at the Premier League game, we probably don't nip in and get it. But then the lads just seem to be honest from the word go, the first whistle. So when you're pressing and you're used to pressing, yeah, always looking for a goal, and we talked about Kenny then getting his goal as well, you can't have that lax of concentration for Bray. And it was going to show eventually, whether it was that slip, it would have been another one, because I think mentally they probably weren't prepared. And maybe I've been distant. Myself, I wasn't prepared for the dog to be so fast, considering what happened the week before. Maybe a bit more caution with it, but they absolutely went for the jugular straight out the gate. And Bray just simply couldn't deal with it. I mean, we had spoken in our chat. They're two central midfielders and they're two centre backs, miles apart. Miles apart. There was space there all day for someone like you, say, keep or the quarterback role. Absolutely picking them off all day. Vinny Lennon at the time of his life passing the ball. It's absolutely. I'd love to see his pass completion. I think it was just simple balls into the middle of the park all the time from him, because there was nobody to touch him. No, and that's the thing. I think it'll probably become harder for Dundalk as the season continues. But right now, what we found was Treaty in the first half last week and Bray for the first half. They stood off and didn't try to press us in any way. And when you do that, we literally have the caliber of player to tear you apart. And when we scored that early goal, Vincent and Luke were on comms, who I've worked with before. And, Vincent's a diehard Bray man. And he literally said the important thing is that Bray settled into this game and don't give Dundalk anything early away. And I'd say as soon as that first one went in, they had that sinking feeling, because Dean Ebbe, like I said, who looked like he was on one, he was very unlucky. The original ball that comes in, it's kind of defended from underneath the crossbar, and because if it had have fallen to Ebbe, it was going into the net. But somehow they managed to defend it on the line and put it out for the corner. But these set pieces, like we've mentioned it before, they're like we're starting to have something in our locker every week that it's something from the set piece, whether we're going direct. This time it was a corner, but we lamented for years that we can't do anything from set pieces, when under Kenny we seem to have all these tricks and everything in our mind. But all of a sudden, this is clearly something that Ken and Kieran are working on, because this was something else that we didn't see. It's an overhit corner, goes right the way over, and probably when it goes all the way over, do you feel those three defenders who went to meet Dervin, they switched off though, haven't they? They kind of followed it. Yeah, but Dervin didn't. They waited that half a yard too long, and then by the time it comes in, you'll see the last defender, like he's inches away from it. But I mean, it might as well be a mile, and they've obviously just waited. They've obviously tried to guide it. Maybe it's floodlights, but they've obviously lost the flight of the ball. maybe it hung in the air a bit too long for them. I don't know, but they weren't maybe expected to come so far. But I mean, it's something to look back and really rue. But we're talking about set piece, and many times we sit here at podcast over last maybe not 3 or 4 seasons, but maybe 2 seasons where we just cannot get anything from set piece. And maybe look, I'm sure they were working on it, but obviously the lads have gone in, Ken and Killer, and look, they've got Ronan Murray doing strength and condition, but Ronan's played at the top level, so I'm sure he's thrown his eye in on 1 or 2 things as well. But they've definitely got something between their teeth in regard of, set piece. Maybe it's the first division, maybe there's a lack of a bit of quality and the set piece. But they're definitely a bit between their teeth. They're probably going to be talking, a goal every other game at this stage. Whereas we couldn't get a goal a game in any kind of open play last year. So to be getting goals from set piece, whether it's corners or free kicks, or even just balls into the box, that's what we're really, like you say, lamenting over the last couple of seasons that we couldn't grab. These boys have definitely, they've definitely turned the page in this, and these lads look hungry for goals. Look, like you saw Vinny Leonard the first game of the season, up for the ball, 16 years of age. That's what we're looking for. We haven't really had that, even though we've had the height. There hasn't been that kind of want to go in, and we're definitely on a kind of an upward kind of spiral there of, we could be going back to the days of maybe, I'm not saying one in particular, but Brian Garland would have been Andy Boyd. These lads would have had double figures for goals in the season. So that's what we're kind of looking for from midfield and backs, from set pieces, because it's a great outlet to have. It doesn't all have to be tick-attack of football. If you can get a ball out from a corner or a free kick, that's what you're looking for. Goal's a goal. Yeah,
and Dean Ebbe again, just getting in and adding another goal again. We said once he did get that goal down in Kerry, we said, could that kickstart? That's now 3-3 for him. It did look like Horgan was trying to claim it on the line, so I presume Dean's having that one. But 3-3 from your main man up front is exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, I think we mentioned on the podcast at the start of the year, maybe in the Lily White as well. We didn't know whether Ebbe was going to be the starter. We didn't know whether it was going to be Kenny, Ebbe, or Ruby. We didn't know what we don't want to go there. You've got Gax coming in behind as well. But I mean, not many. I mean, you're probably going back to something like David McMillan, that type of header, almost running away from goal to get a little bit of flick on, just enough to get it in past. So look, you can argue on the line there's a bit of probably dodgy defending, they're waiting for each other to get it, but he's an absolute, like, I didn't realise himself, and we're probably going to put himself and Groom into the same category of, we've probably been guilty of watching too much Premier Division over the last couple of years. We haven't really watched a lot. Now, obviously, we've heard of these boys, we've seen clips, but for me, they're absolutely outstanding. The two boys are like Dean Ebbe for me is he's exactly what you're looking for to get yourself back into the Premier Division. And I don't want to be looking what his contract's going to be next year, but I mean, you'd like to be thinking he's coming up with us. But I said it on last week's show, how nobody's taking a chance. I know he's at Rovers back in the day, but how nobody's really kind of grasping from the first division, I don't know. 30 goals for that loan last year, but he's definitely on the road to hitting a very similar figure with Dundalk this season again.
From then on, like I felt that Bray were completely shell-shocked, really, how we'd hit them. And it was only a case of how many we seen. Darryl try some kind of curlers from the edge of the box, Owen with a couple of chances, probably would like to think he could have done better with. Dean Ebbe with a couple of chances as well. It just seemed like we were in cruise control at this stage, and a third was going to come. Where I felt we were getting the most kind of success was definitely that left-hand side. I don't know if it's because you're looking at two more natural players in Horgan out on the left and Sean Keogh in behind him, but like Sean Keogh was just so high up. You're probably looking at unorthodox on the right hand side, in the sense you've got Kenny and Dervin, who aren't used to playing that side, so we felt it in a more natural way. But for Kenny's goal, like it's a quick 1-2 between Sean Keogh plays the ball into Horgan. Horgan realizes Sean's going to bomb on, gets it back to him. He tries to cut the ball across the box. It is initially defended, but goes straight back to Keogh, who has the speed to just head it back across the box. And as soon as it landed at Kenny's feet, it reminded me of his first goal against Drogheda in the Malone Cup that time. Everyone sliding along the box. And this is where Owen's probably at his best, is he seems to not panic in this situation. He gets the ball out from under his feet and just puts it straight into the corner. And looks cool, calm and collective under it all. That's probably where, like we said, we'd love to see him in through the middle. He's probably more of a poacher, a finisher, and this. Although, like he's plenty of good link-up play today, but they're the sort of ones you do expect Owen to finish off, and it's great for him to open his account too.
Yeah, I think, we mentioned last week, was it treaty last? It wasn't treaty last week. Who did we play the week before?
Kerry,
that's what it was. He got 1 or 2 chances against Kerry. Like you say, in the box, quick feet, and where he doesn't have too long to think about it, that's probably where he's going to get his goals. Yes, he can run. Yes, he can get up and, kind of tall striker, centre forward. But I think quick feet, without having to overthink it too much, that's probably where he's going to get most of his goals this season, because when he gets a bit of time, he could be guilty of overthinking it.
Yeah.
So like when he's running twice against Kerry, one in particular is 1-on-1 with the keeper, and he hasn't finished. And maybe that little bit of, look, we were talking about confidence, but like there's no lack of confidence in this goal. I mean, the build-up play is sensational. Ebby's involved again early on. The 1-2 with Hogan, and I mean, the number 10 does not want to chase Sean Keogh any longer. You can clearly see it. But that quick feast, that quick thought. I mean, Sean Keogh is such an outlet. I mean, we'll go back to kind of not to kind of hammer left backs that we've had, but Dane Massey type thing. That's what we're looking for now. I know, albeit first division, but that's the kind of outlet we have with young Sean at the back. But Kenny, to get the goal, especially with the couple of weeks that he's had, and a great finish. I mean, like he's a big fella. Like we've met him. He's a big lump for young fella. Like to be able to talk to the box with 2 or 3 around him and find that pocket of space, because anywhere else, the only other place it was in his top corner on the same side. There's not many places to go when it's in that kind of in around the penalty box. But it's a great finish, and like you're delighted for him because you want him off the mark. You want to be challenging Dean Ebby for that. Not a starting spot, because they can both play, but you want the two of them in double figures kind of come halfway of the season, because that's if they're scoring double figures, then you're doing the right thing. You're at the higher end of the table, and that's where you want to be. But delighted for him, and like you say, quick thinking. That's kind of going to be his forte this year. Hopefully, he can definitely run. He's as fit as anyone, but I think maybe the less he has to do in the box, where he can just an instinct striker, instinct goals. That's probably where we're going to get to see the benefit of him. And yeah, look, delighted for him. I think you can tell on his face as well. He's absolutely delighted to get it. If just he can get a few more now at Oriel in front of a packed crowd, it'd be great for him.
It's definitely not the start that Bray were looking for. You could just tell that their manager wanted him in at halftime, rolled the changes at halftime as well, so you knew he was not happy. 3 substitutes in. I suppose settling that you weren't expecting the quick start and the continuation of everything we've seen in the first half to happen in the second half. Yet early on, I suppose the chances were still coming. Dean could have scored one. I think Vinnie Leonard was very, very close, and Sean Keogh as well. There was more players getting in their way of each other as well. But it's at that stage, I felt early second half it was probably more the same, where we could have taken lead. But then you could visibly see, especially when we started making 1 or 2 substitutes, it was time to take the foot off the gas here. And it probably allowed Bray into the game a little bit more, considering they'd made 4 or 5 substitutes probably halfway through the half at that stage.
Yeah. I mean, we were kind of talking. I see it online and on Twitter. You probably should have been 4 or 5 up at half time. Then the second half we kind of did it. I don't think we died away in the second half. I just think, the shackles.
It's hard to keep that up though as well. That sort of momentum. It's very, very hard.
Momentum, and like a new Ash tough pitch against it. If you send a team out, if you have them in the first half and they try and come out in the second half, the one thing you don't want to do is rattle them too much, because they'll start kicking you, they'll start getting annoyed. But Bray were obviously given an absolute talking to at half, and like you say, 3 changes. For me, the kind of, I don't mean to be rude, but you kind of wonder with that. I don't know how many changes they've made, but I know they're obviously losing the likes of Harry Groom. But to get a playoff play last year, I wouldn't fancy him getting anywhere near unless of a serious run in between now and the next couple of weeks, getting their wins up. But
I think there was talk that they seem to kind of go a much more younger route. I know they had some loanees in from Shamrock Rovers and stuff like that as well.
We're just naive.
They get 1 or 2 players in our team, and we're not that.
We've hardly played senior football, but I think there's a bit more organisation with us, and I think as much as we hammered them in the first half, and do you want to see it in the second half? Absolutely. But then there was almost a kind of let them come on us, because they didn't. I don't really think really feared them. I mean, look, that's probably a naivety consider what happened at Treaty last week. But Treaty were a bit different. What happened at Treaty is probably a unique situation where we just had a dodgy 10 minutes. And look, 10 minutes will kill a game for you anyway. But I think that game the other night, it never really looked like anything else was going to happen, whether we scored another one or not. I know they've gotten a goal later on, but it never really seemed like, not take the foot off the pedal, but you could have I'd say the kind of half time went, look, same again. Don't try and force. It's probably going to happen naturally. Yes, Bray got into the game a little bit more. They probably had a bit more of the ball. But again, I don't think they created enough. They probably didn't show enough that they could actually get back into the game. I don't think that really bothered anybody. I think, you want to see plenty of goals. At the same time, it's nice to get subs on and lads game time and minutes. But Bray, for me, were probably, like, as good as we were, the surprise to me was how poor Bray were in the first half. I don't think I've seen a team like that in a long, long time. And we have pounded teams over the years, but I've never seen a team kind of almost look like they almost look like they weren't fit for League of Ireland football. I mean, that might be being harsh. We're very early doors in the season. But I think even Bray fans will be really annoyed, in particular over the first half. They're really poor.
I suppose, just over the 70-minute mark, we tend to see substitutes from Killer if he needs to. At 3-0 up, it's probably the most opportune time to get Wardy and Parashev off. He's able to bring in Shane Tracy for his first game. Arubi comes in then as well, and then not that long after, TJ Malloy and Sean Spate will come in. I mean, it's one of those ideal opportunities. You're up, you're cruising, the game is in a good way. We always wondered why we didn't see enough young lads get an opportunity up in Oriel, but clearly Kieran's created the environment where these lads can get on and get in, and I think if you're any of them on the bench right now, I think the thing is you do have an opportunity to play and push for it, because we've seen now, I suppose, with one or two changes what we've needed to do to bring in lads and have hit the ground running. The likes of Vinnie Leonard, for instance, I wouldn't have had him pegged as a centre half pair, and yet there's him and McHale together, like sound partnership as it turned out to be for the night. But we were in an ideal situation, 3-0 up and cruising, to be able to make those substitutions. That's been a long time, hasn't it, since we've been able to do that? Yeah,
it's very rare we've gotten ourselves into situations where we can be comfortable making substitutions, and you're almost making substitutions that give time to the leg. They're not even, I mean, obviously they're tactical, but they don't necessarily have to be tactical. When you're that kind of full on, you're that kind of not dominant, but you're that in charge of the match. You can bring players like TJ Malloy on, but even at that, the type of environment now the lads have created, I don't even think it's going to take a 3-0 leading 3-0 to get these boys on. I think these boys are in with a shout every single week. I think we're going to be surprised maybe with like Parashev in particular has been a revelation. I mean,
he's a super player.
It looks like he's played. Look, I don't know the history. I know he's been at youth football before and he leave now, but like where they've got, like, he's absolute. Like I think
he was on the books at Shells, or I believe when Killer was still playing. As a young lad, and when he got in, as far as I'm aware, the lads gave him a call straight away. Straight away.
How nobody else has picked him up. I feel like again, it's all benefit, and hopefully, look, he's a cracking season. But I don't think the likes of TJ Malloy, Sean Smith, I don't think we're going to have to be 3 or 4-0 up to see these boys play. I think they're genuinely going to get a chance. Not every game, but definitely every other game, every third game, they're going to see themselves off the bench. Because I think they're going to be vital. Come the hard end of the season, if touch wood, if we got any injuries or players are feeling a little bit, I think these boys are going to be vital. And those little minutes, those 15, 20 minutes, they might not sound like a lot, but that'll build them up at the end of the season. I think the lads have created an environment where these boys, they're not just being taken for the trip. They're not being taken in as token players. Look, come on, look, we give you a rundown, you'll experience the match day. That's not the crack anymore. If you're there, you've got to be ready to go. And it's going to be a busy season for them. But whether they would have got this opportunity, I don't even know if they would have got this opportunity under another coach. If we'd have brought in another coach who wasn't maybe having the connection with Kilduff has with Dundalk, would they have tried something else? I was kind of looking for an experienced manager probably to come in maybe to get us back up. But whether or not we would have seen these young players blooded, I don't think we would have. I think these boys have created that environment, that atmosphere. They've signed the right staff. Boundary's there as well. We mentioned Ronan Murray. They've got these boys in that know what it's like to be at the club. Ken Kieran's obviously got the experience at youth football as well, has the knowledge.
Do you feel though those lads are probably looking at, like, for instance, Sean Keogh got an opportunity, took it, and got in there, to a certain extent, Owen Kenny as well, like Needs Must last year, and Owen kind of got trusted in there. It probably wasn't a perfect environment for him, but I'm sure it's a learning curve all the same. I know you're looking at Vinnie Leonard as well. I'm sure they're all looking at these lads saying, they weren't the first names on the sheets not that long ago. And now they are because of how they played themselves into this.
Yeah.
And like you said, this 15, 20 minutes of an opportunity, you don't know how that could end up by the end of the season, how many minutes you could actually have in your legs to have played first division football for Dundalk Football Club. Like this could be a massive opportunity for people.
Yeah, and like Vinny Leonard's probably, like Parashif as well, but Vinny Leonard's probably a perfect example. We would have expected him maybe to do what TJ Malloy was doing coming off the bench. Vinny Leonard with Groom, Hogan, Ebby, he's not the first. He's your starting centre back. He's jumped from kind of obscurity. And look, we know him as a Dundalk fan through the youth system, but he's probably your number one choice centre back. Mayo when he's ready to go as well. But I don't see how you leave someone like Vinny.
And you're probably also thinking McHale's on loan.
Absolutely.
So you're for thinking for the future. Who will be your partnership? I know you have Mayo to come back, but you're kind of thinking long term.
Absolutely.
Where are you going to go on this?
And that's what these boys have to work for. Yes, look, the positions different. Sean Spate and Malloy play different positions, but they've got to take that as kind of right. This is where I want to be. Like you're only talking 3 or 4 short months ago. These boys were playing youth football. They've come in. Vinny Leonard's been a revelation. Although Parrish has come in not from the club, but they're all steeped in youth football, and this is their first real glimpse. We had a Kiki last year as well, kind of almost unknown. Come in, he's got his move to Sligo. Obviously, we don't want these players moving on, but the likes of TJ Malloy in particular, because we're going to have issues. There might become there's a bit of a stale point up top. We might get a couple of injuries because it's very physical when you're playing up top. The way Ebby plays, Owen Kenny, defenders like to go at them because they don't want them having the ball. Yeah. So someone like TJ Malloy there popping off the bench, pace, like he's an absolute Rottweiler up front. I mean, like he shifts across the ground really fast. I mean, look, it's going to take him a while to bed into it, but I don't think first division pace of a first division game is any problem to him. I don't think he's going to suffer with it. Premier Division maybe, if it was starting now, but I think we said this at the end of last season. I think it's the best thing that's probably happened to the club. Not that we're playing first division, but we've gotten in, and this kind of fusion together of everybody. I think it's going to work out absolutely perfect because we're at the stage now where, dare I say it, we could miss 1 or 2. If there was 1 or 2 injuries, we're okay. It's not the end of the world. We got there. You're
missing three probably key members right now, and we're getting through this, and we're still picking up results.
And it's not like you wouldn't notice them missing, but we have players there that we know that when they come off the bench, it's not just right. They're trying to plug a gap here. We got players who can move the ball, who can play. They know the way they want to play, the style that the lads want to play. They're fit. They're ready to go. I think it's a cracking thing to be a youth player in Oriel Park. There probably hasn't been a better time since probably John Gill was there. You had your Mulvenis and things like that coming through. I think it's a serious prospects. There's 3 or 4 prospects there that could probably go to the very top, at least of League of Ireland.
I suppose one of the other players who was still missing, we still could have out for another couple of weeks, was Enda Minogue again. We've seen Pete come back in, obviously play against one of his former teams in Bray Wanderers. An easy night. Everything was going handy for him once again. He'll be a little bit disappointed that when it came down to, 89th minute or whatever it was, we conceded a penalty. He did get called out. He tries to get down to make the save, but when the ball deflects, he does bring the player down. I think Pete would be honest about that. Yeah. He'd be disappointed again just to give away something. Like it was cruising for a clean sheet for him. I felt he wasn't under any massive pressure.
You kind of like it's how's your luck. You've had barely yet to do against Treaty, and then you have 10 minutes where everybody's talking. Yeah, and you've barely yet to do, apart from kicking out and controlling the ball, you've had nothing to do for 88 minutes. And it's just one of them things, 90% of both games, it's been perfect. And it's just one of them, a ball comes in. Yeah, look, I mean, at the time when I actually didn't see it live, or when I watched it back, I thought, I didn't actually know what the penalty, I was trying to figure out what the penalty was for, because in real time, I couldn't spot it. But it is, you're right, look, he'll hold his hands up on it. It's one of them. But I mean, look, it's just very unlucky. But look, it goes to show you kind of have to keep your concentration from. You're talking 100 minutes now, not 90.
The thing is, there's the offside goal 10 minutes, 5 minutes before that. Yeah. Like if that wasn't flagged for offside, the ball wasn't in the back of the net, and I think it was correct from it's hard from that angle. But if you're talking 3-2 going into the 90th minute, does last week start playing? Thankfully, it doesn't. We get across the line and we get that. And I suppose, from our own point of view, where do we go now? Because we're all in danger of, like, I think everybody's seen people's messages and tweets and that during the match of, we could cruise this league. We've got to make sure we're pulling that back because you could say we've played a lot of teams to get an idea of where we are. The big two teams, both Wexford, Cove, we haven't played yet. Wexford is next. Do you think those two games might tell us a little bit more where we are in this, or do you think do you just keep going and going until, like, you're not going to win every single game in this league? We've no divine right to win the league and say we're going to steamroll this in any way or anything like that. There's teams who've been down here in this first division, had tastes of higher levels from time to time and bounce back and forth and in between. It can be a cruel division. Cork, I feel we're a little bit like Cork last year in a sense that we've held on to a body of players. For Cork, it took maybe 3 seasons, but they eventually got the personnel right and held on to a lot of them and were able to build it. We came down, but held on to 5-6 key players for us to get us there. And I think that's what's probably pushing us ahead. The likes of Darrell Horgan, like you mentioned, Mayoa, Owen Kenny, these are players who were able to do it in the Premier Division. So you'd like to think they should be more than capable of doing it in the first division. And so far, that's probably what we're seeing. But like I say, you're only an injury crisis away from not being able to reel in teams like Bray that we've seen there and hit them so quickly. And also, I suppose the other question is the tempo that we're currently able to play at. Do you think is that sustainable for a full season also, or is that pending on personnel? I forget what my original question was.
I think it is sustainable. No, I'm going to just write this down that this is season 5, episode 6, and I come back here season 5, episode 12, and I'm like, this is sustainable. You'd like to think it is because, look, we have gone. My only worry is that teams figure out very quick. Teams start to figure out what we're doing. It's not that they won't figure it out, but they start to say, right, well, we can't play against them, so let's just block them off. And we don't really want that because we want to see football. But I'm very optimistic that even with, like you say, even if we were to miss 1 or 2, I mean, obviously you don't want to miss, like we've shown centre-backs, you've Conor O'Keefe now played. Conor O'Keefe's a highly regarded, well-established league.
I think he was back on the bench, but thankfully we never needed to bring him in, which is great.
Like, you're looking at someone, the likes of Hogg, and I actually think if we're probably talking now, Ebby could be, if Ebby's not playing, we might notice that. But I think, and I don't mean to sound like Steph there or Captain Optimistic or anything, but I think with the youth players we have, the way it's done, we need a little bit of luck, barring injury. We're going to get injuries at some stage. But I honestly think the more these lads play in that system, I think we find you're obviously your Wexford, your Cove Ramblers. Cove Ramblers for me are next to ourselves. They're probably the best team in the league. We've got them, I think, middle of April, something like that. But by then,
I think they're the last on this round of matches.
The kind of high numbers of games, and you've Longford, Wexford coming up. You'd like to think you'd sustain it. I think we're going to have a season where we could probably afford maybe 1 or 2 losses on the bounce and still be okay, if that makes sense. Provided they're not against the likes of a Cove Ramblers or UCD coming up, for instance. UCD, churn out young players all the time. You still got your Ronan Finns playing there. They'll be up for that. Everybody up for playing for Dundalk. I just hope that, and I really do think that with a couple of games to go, we should be, I'd like to think we're there or thereabouts. Sustaining it, I don't see why we can't. I really don't. I think the lads, when we talk about players that have come down from the Premier Division, no matter how much you don't want to be disrespectful, the pace is different. The game is quick, but it's not Premier Division quick. And I think the lads, they won't find it comfortable. The physicality is different. But I think, they're probably not as, I'd like to see their fitness trackers at the end of the game. They're probably not as kind of out of breath as they normally are. Look, things can happen in football, but I think that the caliber of what we have, I think we're going to have too much for pretty much, at one stage or another, pretty much every team in the league.
Look, Gally, we said we will just kind of jump on just to do the post-match show and not let one go missing, so we won't go on all night. Just to wrap this one for yourself, who stood out for you as a player of the match?
I am a man. Like, don't get me wrong. Groom is fantastic. Sean Keogh's fantastic. But for me, anytime he was on the ball, Dean Ebby for me I thought he was excellent. I really did. And I know it's probably not, you're going to be talking about the Keoghs, the Darrell Hogg, even Keith Ward's passing. It can be a right sometimes, but when he's on it, he's on it. I thought Ebby was just so influential in the game. We haven't even probably mentioned McHale, left pass with centre back, left foot. Yeah. But for me, Ebby was there's no really anybody had a game. Ebby, if I had to pick another one, Perishiff again, I don't know. I don't even know if he'll still be here at the end of the season. I think he is an absolute baller. He's the best I've seen at that age in years. Really, we're talking probably Brandon Kavanagh, that type of thing. Aaron, Hobbs when he was on it. I think he's sensational. But Ebby for me is such a key figure, and he's going to be a massive player for us. We did hope that would be the case when we signed him. We didn't really know because, again, look, we've been in the highs of the Premier Division for the last decade. But for me, Ebby was outstanding. And he's a 70 cup as well.
He is. And I think we've just been calling out for that focal point in an attack for a couple of seasons. It's what we lamented last year, that Gullen just wouldn't or couldn't. It wasn't his game or whatever, or the style we were playing.
He has that football brain that McMillan would have had, that Hooban had. I'm not saying the same levels. That's what we're looking for.
But I think that allows Horgan and, well, we've seen Kenny playing on this match, to push on and be able to come in and support. And is it any surprise that all three were on the score sheet for this? Like I say, we're in Longford is next match.
Longford, the Wexford, they're the next
two. Longford, who do seem to be conceding a fair few, had an absolute ding dong of a match there against Kerry last night, but it's another one where I suppose we're back at home as well. We've got to use this, and we've got to, if teams have a weakness of being able to concede, we've got to go out there and get in. It's funny, I was listening. I don't often get the opportunity, but I was able to listen to the Ken and the lads on the Men Who Say Football podcast, and they were talking about we actually haven't seen this team go behind yet. And it actually only dawned on me then. It's like we might see a different mentality from this team. It's one thing when you're on the front and in front all the time, but will we get a chance to be behind? At the moment, it's hard to see, just the way we're playing, the way we're containing opposition, and the way we're free scoring and free playing. It's hard to see us not in control of a match right now, isn't it?
Oh, and I don't want to come. I don't want to come back to. We in my opinion, we have the perfect squad. We have a goalkeeper that's come in from Athlone, his striker from Athlone as well. We have two quick full backs. Even when it's Delvin, kind of a strength, pace, low centre of gravity. He's a midfielder, but at right back he's been excellent. We have two absolute ballers in centre back. Vinny Leonard. You're probably looking at. I know we're only, what are we, 5 games into the league, 4 games into the league. You're probably looking at someone that's probably going to be in the run. Considering he sustains this, you're probably looking at team of the year. I mean, that's what we're talking about. He's 16 years of age. We have Harry Groom, who can pass a ball on a sixpence. Darrell Hogan, Wardy when he's in. Perishiff. I mean, we have the.
You're going to get Bill Andy Perishiff a statue at this stage.
I'm not a fan of the socks. I'll tell him that. He needs to put on. He needs to put them socks up his knees. I'm not having them socks that low Jack Grealish type. But I mean, we barring any, like you say, any catastrophic injuries, we have the perfect squad to go and do what we're doing and continue it. And I can't remember the original question you said and what we were talking about, but we do have. I don't think there's a squad. Cove Ramblers are very strong, because I talked to a guy and I know some of their signs that have come in. I've seen them play, and our manager seems to be very good, but I don't think squad-wise and the way we play, there's nobody to touch us, provided we produce every week. But again, look, we could be sitting here against Longford, who are mad for a win, can't stop conceding, and that's your banana skin. They got to keep it. It's games like this really that you kind of say, right, well, because the Oriel Park pitch, I know last week's an AstroTurf, but Oriel Park pitch is a different type of AstroTurf. It's not at the level. I mean, look, it passes the level, but it's a really poor surface. So we got to be on our game when we get there. But like the lad said, like you said, Ken, the boys haven't conceded, so it'll be interesting. But I really don't, provided it's not a last-minute goal, I really don't see it. Like last year, we would have said, when we went behind, we had no plan. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think
No.
not that we want to be behind, but I think we will have plans for everything, every kind of catastrophe, I suppose. But yeah, look, bring it on. Bring all them goals on. The boys will be grand.
Catastrophes and Dundalk Football Club never too far away from each other, of course. As I say, we'll hopefully be back as per normal with our post-match game for the Longford on Friday. Everything should resort back to normal. But until then, have a good bank holiday weekend and come on the town.
My black and